How does one drunken joke at a bar turn into real divorce papers in your hand the next week? What do you say when the husband you mocked as controlling stands in a crowded lobby and calmly makes your "I'm free" line a legal reality? Can you still call him the villain when his revenge is quiet, lawful, and signed by a judge? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Tamsin Vale, and I still don't think I did anything that bad that night. People act like I burned the house down or something. I just took off a ring and wanted to feel like myself again for a few hours. Is that really a crime? Because the way everyone reacted later, you would think I robbed a bank. I was sitting at our small kitchen table, turning my coffee mug slowly. The mug had a picture of our daughter, Nora, in a unicorn shirt. Ethan had given it to me last Mother's Day. He was at the sink, rinsing his plate like he always did, careful, quiet. That was the thing about him. So careful, so quiet. After a while, it starts to feel like you live with a shadow, not a man. He asked what time I would be back from that work thing I had mentioned. I told him it was not just work, it was drinks with the girls, and I rolled my eyes. I said I needed a night out because I was tired and stressed. He said he was just trying to plan dinner and bedtime for Nora. He asked if I could be home before midnight, so I would not be exhausted for the morning school run. He said it like a request, but it felt like a rule. I told him normal husbands were happy when their wives had fun, and that I didn't need a babysitter. I said he made me feel old before my time. He went quiet again and dried his hands on the towel. That silence drove me crazy. If he shouted, at least it would feel like passion. But this calm look, this slow nod, made me feel like I was the child. He asked if I would be wearing my ring. That comment really got under my skin. I laughed and asked why that mattered. He said he just liked seeing it on me, that it made him feel close to me. I told him that if our whole marriage rested on a tiny piece of metal, maybe there was a bigger problem. He looked hurt, but he just said that he trusted me and wanted us to respect each other. Respect. Always that word. Respect does not put excitement in your blood. After he left to pick up Nora from daycare, I went to get ready. I stood in front of the mirror for a long time. The bathroom light was too bright, showing all the little lines by my eyes. I was only 31, but sometimes I felt 45. I put on makeup, a tight black top, jeans that made my legs look long, and heels that I almost never wore anymore. I checked myself from the side. I looked good, better than good, and suddenly I felt annoyed at Ethan for not seeing that all the time. My ring sat on the counter, next to my perfume bottle. I slid it on and off a few times. It left a pale circle around my finger, a mark. I thought about how everyone at the office still saw me as the married one, the stable one. I wondered who I would be if nobody knew. Just Tamsin, not Ethan's wife, not Nora's mom. Just me. My phone buzzed. It was my cousin Marla, sending a message that she was already at the bar and that the cocktails were strong. She added a joke that I better not show up in mom jeans. I smiled and replied with a selfie from the mirror, ring still on. She replied that I looked hot enough to cause trouble. That word, trouble, made my heart flip a little. At Ember, the music was low and the lights were soft, all warm red and gold. The air smelled like citrus and alcohol and expensive perfume. I felt a little thrill as I walked in alone. Marla waved me over, already halfway through a drink with a pink sugar rim. My older sister Sienna was there too, leaning back in her chair, scanning the room like a queen on her throne. They both looked at my hand first thing. They always noticed everything. Marla asked why my ring was hiding. I held up my hand and showed it to her. She made a face and said it ruined the whole look. Sienna told me to take it off and live a little, that one ring should not control my whole personality. They said it like a joke, but I could feel the challenge in it. I slipped the ring off and placed it in my clutch. Simple as that. One tiny move. The air around us seemed to change. I felt lighter. I said I was a free woman tonight, just laughing, just playing. Marla grabbed her phone and said this needed to go on her story. I made a gesture with my bare hand around my martini glass, letting the ice catch the light. I knew Ethan followed her account. I knew some of our mutual friends did too. I told myself I did not care. I said, respect follows results, and I had results tonight. I was going to feel alive. The bartender, Leo, came over. He had tattoos on his forearms and that easy smile. He asked how my night was going, and I told him it was the first real night out I'd had in ages. He asked if I worked around here, and I told him I was an office manager and basically held the whole place together. I liked the way he looked me right in the eye. He asked if I wanted to try a new drink he was working on. I said I was brave and could handle it. Sienna joked that I was a wild child trapped in a boring marriage. I laughed and let it hang in the air. I did not correct her. Halfway through the second drink, my phone buzzed again. It was Ethan, asking how things were going and if I knew what time I might be home. I showed the message to Marla and rolled my eyes. She said he sounded like a hall monitor. Sienna said he needed to chill and let me have fun. I replied that things were going late because my boss wanted to talk and that I was still at work drinks. Technically not true, but close enough, I told myself. Ethan wrote back a simple, "Okay, be safe." That was it. No big fight, just be safe. Somehow that annoyed me more. I told the girls he was checking up on me again. I said he trusted me on paper, but not in real life. I watched Leo polish a glass and chat with another woman at the bar. There was a little twist in my stomach, like jealousy, and I thought, why should I feel jealous? I'm the married one. I'm the one with something solid. But then I thought, if it is so solid, why does one night out feel like a secret escape? As the night went on, I laughed louder, leaned in closer when Leo spoke, touched Marla's arm when she made a dirty joke, pretended not to see the notifications on my phone. At one point, Marla lifted my hand again and filmed my bare ring finger with the neon bar sign behind it. She added text on the screen. She said she's free tonight. I posed for the camera like it was funny. I told myself it was just a joke. Everybody jokes online. It doesn't mean anything if there's no real plan, right? I did not see, then, how that tiny video would look later, in a very different room, in very different hands. The night at Ember did not blow up in my face, like people say it should have. Nothing happened, not really. I had some drinks, I flirted a little, we laughed at a stupid video. That was all. Ethan did not storm in or shout or cause a scene. He just went quiet for a few days and moved slower around the house, like the air was heavy. To me, that felt like punishment. He asked the next morning how the work drinks went. I said they were fine and that my boss was on my back again. He asked if Marla was there. I said yes. He asked if Sienna was there. I said yes. He asked if Leo was the bartender. I said I did not notice. That was not true, of course. Leo was the first thing I noticed. But if Ethan was going to ask questions like a detective, then I did not feel like giving him full answers. He said he saw a video of my hand on Marla's story. I played dumb and said I did not know which one he meant. He said the one where my ring was not on. I laughed and said it was a joke, that I took it off for 10 seconds. I told him everyone understood it was just girls' night fun. He said he did not think our marriage was a joke. I told him he was being dramatic and that nobody else cared. The thing is, everyone did care. At least in the small way people care when there is gossip. At work the next week, 2 co-workers asked how my wild night went. One asked if Ethan was really mad. I made a face and said he had control issues. I did not say he had been calm, and just said he felt disrespected. That did not fit the story I wanted. The next Friday, Marla sent me a text in the afternoon. She wrote that there was a rooftop bar event and that Leo said he could get us free shots. She added a winking face. I looked at the message for a long time. We had already gone out the week before. Ethan and I had not really talked since. Nora had drawn a picture of us with a big line in the middle and given it to me, saying we were in different rooms. I did not want to think too hard about that. I told myself that another night out might actually help, that if I felt better, I would be nicer at home. I told myself Ethan should want me to be relaxed and happy. When he came into the kitchen, I told him I would be going out again. I said Marla needed me. He asked if it would be late. I said maybe, just to push him. He asked if I could at least keep my ring on this time, because he didn't want people to get the wrong idea. That annoyed me so much. I said if people got the wrong idea, that was their problem. I said he needed to trust me instead of worrying what others thought. He said he trusted me, but did not trust how things looked with certain people. I knew he meant Leo. I snapped that he was jealous of a bartender. He did not argue. He just said he hoped I would remember I had a family to come home to. What was I supposed to do with that? Wrap myself in guilt and never go anywhere? At the rooftop bar, the air was warm and the city lights glittered all around us. The tables were high and narrow. Music thumped just loud enough that you had to lean in close to talk. I loved that. It gave me a reason to be near people. Leo was there in a simple black shirt, sleeves rolled, smiling at everyone. When he saw me, he looked at my bare hand first. That tiny pause made my chest feel hot. He asked if I was free again tonight. I laughed and said I liked the sound of that. Marla filmed another story of us raising our glasses. She wrote some stupid caption about ring optional Fridays. I saw the screen as she typed. I knew Ethan would see it later. For a split second, I thought about asking her not to post it, but then I thought, no, he should see what fun looks like. Maybe then he will understand what he's doing wrong. We had more drinks. Sienna arrived late and asked how things were with Mr. Serious. I shrugged and said he was sulking and sleeping on the edge of the bed now, acting like the victim. She told me not to let him flip the script, not to let him make me feel small. I liked that phrase, flip the script. It made me feel like I was in control of the story. Around 11, my phone started buzzing. Ethan asked if I was okay. Then a bit later, he asked what time I thought I would be back. Then he said he could come pick me up if I wanted, because the trains were slow on weekends. I showed the messages to Marla and Sienna. They both groaned. Marla said he sounded like a hall monitor. Sienna said he was clocking me, like I was a teenager. I laughed, because it felt easier than admitting the messages made me feel both cared for and trapped. When he called, I pressed the speaker button without thinking. The music and voices around us spilled into the call. He asked if I was having fun. I said yes. He asked, in this careful voice, if I could please keep my ring on during nights out, because people were starting to talk. I said people were only talking because he made a big deal out of nothing. Marla leaned in and said, loud enough for the phone, that I looked too hot to be hidden. Sienna said something about letting the girl live. Ethan went quiet for a long second. Then he asked if Leo was there. I said it was a bar, so yes, he was working. Ethan said he would come get me, that he did not want me walking home that late. I rolled my eyes and said he was not my father. I told him I would get a rideshare back. He said he was already in the car. He asked which entrance the bar used. That annoyed me even more. I told him the address in this cold voice and hung up. Marla laughed and said, Dad's on his way. I laughed too. It was cruel, but it felt like we were in a movie, and I was the rebellious main character. When Ethan arrived, I saw him down by the street, near the door, hands in his pockets. He looked so out of place, in his simple jacket, no drink, no smile. Marla grabbed her phone again and filmed a quick clip of him standing there, adding text about control problems. I didn't stop her. Part of me wanted the world to see all this. I went down the stairs, feeling the buzz of alcohol in my body. He asked if I was ready to go. I said I wanted one more drink, and then I would meet him out front. He said he could wait at the bar with us. That made me feel cornered. I told him it was girls' night and he would ruin the mood. He said he just wanted to make sure I got home safe. I said I was safe and that he could sit in the car if he wanted. He exhaled and nodded. He said he would wait 15 minutes. I went back up, heart racing, a little angry and a little thrilled. I told Marla and Sienna that he was sitting in the car like an angry father. They laughed. Leo asked if everything was okay. I said my husband was doing the usual jealous thing, but that it was fine. Leo raised an eyebrow in this tired way and said he did not want drama. I assured him there was none. We had that one last drink, then another. At some point, my sense of time blurred. I checked my phone and saw new messages from Ethan. "Are you coming? Is everything okay? I'm going home now." The last one had been sent 40 minutes earlier. I stood there with my empty glass, and Leo's hand brushing mine as he took it. I felt a sharp, stupid power. I thought, he can wait. He always waits. He will still be there when I get home. That's what husbands do. When the bar finally closed, Leo asked where I lived. I told him it was not far. He said he could walk me to the corner, make sure I got a cab. I let him. We stepped out into the night air together. I did not see Ethan's car anywhere. When I realized Ethan's car was gone, I felt more offended than worried. The street was quiet, just some late buses and couples laughing as they walked by. Leo stood beside me, hands in his pockets. He asked if I had a ride. I said my husband had decided to leave. He let out a low whistle and said that sounded rough. I said it was typical, that Ethan liked to make big gestures to punish me. Inside, I knew it was not that big. He had waited. I had ignored him. Still, I preferred my version of the story. Leo waved down a cab and opened the door for me. He asked if I wanted him to ride along. For a second, I imagined it. Him sitting next to me, my bare hand on his knee, light sliding across the roof of the car. Then I thought of Nora's unicorn mug in the kitchen sink. I said I was fine and that I did not need rescuing. He smiled and said I knew where to find him. On the ride home, I watched the city go by and tried to arrange my thoughts into something that made me the victim. I decided Ethan leaving meant he did not care if I got home safe. That would be my line. It sounded better than, he waited for an hour and I never came down. When I walked into the apartment, the lights were off. Ethan was sleeping on his side of the bed, or at least pretending to. I went through the motions, makeup off, heels in the corner, ring back on my finger before I lay down. In the morning, he got Nora breakfast without saying much. He asked if I got home okay. I said the cab was fine and that he did not need to worry. I did not ask why he left. He did not explain. The silence between us was like another person at the table. Over the next few days, he was distant. He still did what he always did, school drop-offs, dishes, laundry, but he felt far away. I told myself he was sulking. When I told Marla about it over lunch at work, she said he was clearly trying to manipulate me, that he was weaponizing the silent treatment. I liked that phrase. It made me feel like I was the strong one for not giving in. Sienna called and asked if we were coming to the family dinner at the restaurant on Saturday night. It was supposed to be a joint birthday thing for her and my dad. I hesitated, then said yes. I thought it might be good to be around people. Besides, I liked the idea of telling the story my way, once and for all, to everyone at the same time. On Saturday, I put extra effort into my look. Tight dress, hair curled, perfume a little stronger than usual. My ring stayed on, for effect. I wanted to look like a woman who had options, not a guilty wife. Ethan wore a simple shirt and jeans. He looked tired. On the drive there, he asked if we could please not turn the night into a fight. I said I was not the one who always made scenes. He frowned but did not answer. The restaurant was busy and loud, full of families and big groups. Our table stretched almost the full length of the room. Pauline waved from one end, already halfway through a glass of wine. Roger sat stiffly next to her. Sienna was in the middle, laughing with a cousin. Ethan's parents, Linda and Carl, were near the other end, speaking quietly. As soon as we sat down, Pauline looked at Ethan and asked if he was taking good care of me. She said it in a joking tone, but there was a sharp edge under it. I saw my chance. I said he had been extra strict lately, that he did not like it when I went out, and that he had even come to the bar once to check on me. I said it like he was ridiculous, like he was a cartoon jealous husband. People laughed. Sienna encouraged me to tell the story about the rooftop bar and how he stood outside like a security guard. I did, with more color this time. I said he demanded I keep my ring on, that he lost his mind over a silly video. I left out the part where he just asked in a calm text, "Why bother with those details?" My version worked better. Ethan sat very still while I talked. He did not interrupt at first. Marla, across the table, filmed a quick clip of us raising our glasses. I saw her phone tilt toward me and heard the shutter sound. I wondered how many people had seen that first story, and what they thought now, seeing me smile like nothing was wrong. When I joked that I was married but ring optional, the laugh at our end of the table was big and messy. Ethan finally spoke. He said he did not enjoy being mocked, and that our marriage was not a game. His voice was low, but I felt it like a slap. The table went a little quiet. That annoyed me. I said he was making everyone uncomfortable with his serious tone. I said we were just joking. Pauline quickly jumped in and said, "Men always overreact when women just want to have fun." Linda looked at Ethan and asked if he was okay. He said he was fine, and that he just did not like being lied about. That word, lied, made my chest tighten. I felt cornered again. So I did what I always did. I flipped it. I said he was trying to control the narrative, that he hated when I had my own voice. I said he was acting crazy over 2 nights out and a few drinks. Carl watched all this quietly, his fork resting on his plate. Roger stared at his napkin. Nora, sitting between me and Ethan, looked up with big eyes. She asked why Daddy was mad. I quickly said he was just tired and grumpy, that everything was fine. Ethan went silent again. After dinner, Ethan took Nora to the playground by the river, while I stayed behind to chat with Sienna and Pauline. I complained that he had embarrassed me in front of everyone. Pauline said he needed to be careful, or he would lose me. Sienna said maybe I should stay with her for a few days to teach him a lesson. Their voices fed and sharpened my anger. When I finally walked down to the playground, I saw Ethan pushing Nora on a swing. The sky was turning pink. Other parents stood nearby, chatting. He looked calm, almost peaceful. That annoyed me too. I told myself he was performing for strangers, trying to look like the perfect dad. I walked over and asked how long he planned to stay. He said Nora asked for 5 more pushes, and he promised her. That was all. I said he seemed to care more about swings than about his wife's feelings. He said he cared very much about his wife, but she seemed busy turning him into a joke. I told him he was making himself the victim. I said he was trying to turn our daughter against me by being the fun parent while I got called crazy behind my back. He looked shocked and said he had never said a bad word about me to Nora. He said she was already confused enough. I rolled my eyes and said he was guilt-tripping me. He let the swing slow down, then told Nora it was time to go home soon. She pouted but nodded. On the walk back to the car, he stayed a few steps ahead. I watched his shoulders, the way they were tight but steady. I told myself he was plotting, that he was passive-aggressive on purpose. I did not see that he was simply done arguing in circles. That night, when he went into the small study, I passed by the door. His laptop screen glowed in the dark. I saw a spreadsheet open, with dates and short notes. Some cells said bar, others said late shift, others said Nora with me. As soon as he noticed me, he closed the laptop. I asked what he was doing. He said he was just organizing information. I laughed and said he was obsessive, that nobody cared about his little lists. He said quietly that someday details might matter. I should have asked what he meant. Instead, I tossed my hair and walked away, telling myself he was bluffing. Work was the easiest place to pretend nothing was wrong. The office was bright and noisy, with phones ringing and keyboards clicking and people complaining about clients. It felt far away from the kitchen table, from Ethan's quiet highs and Nora's confused drawings. At my desk, I was not a wife failing at some invisible test. I was the office manager who knew where everything was. Marla sat across from me, spinning in her chair and scrolling on her phone. She asked how Mr. Spreadsheet was doing. I knew she meant Ethan. I said he was still sulking and writing everything down like some bored accountant. She laughed and said it sounded creepy. I liked the word creepy more than hurt. It made him sound more at fault. At lunch, we went to the small break room with our salads. 2 of our co-workers joined us, both single, both always watching people's drama. One of them asked if things were still tense at home after the bar stories. I made a show of sighing and said Ethan had control issues. I did not say anything about the nights he still got up early to make Nora's breakfast or the way he folded my laundry, even when we were barely talking. Marla brought up the rooftop bar again, laughing about how he had waited outside like a strict parent. I played along, repeating the story with new little details, making him sound more ridiculous, more jealous. The co-workers nodded and said men like that always end up pushing their wives away. I drank my soda and let their words sink in like proof. While I was talking, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ethan, just a simple line. "I'll pick up Nora today. You can stay late if needed." I showed it to Marla and rolled my eyes, saying he was trying to earn points now. She said he was probably scared I would leave. That pleased me in a strange way. Later that week, I stayed late at the office, but not for work. I answered a few emails, then met Marla downstairs. We walked to a cafe nearby. She said she had seen a notification on Ethan's social media that he was downtown the past 2 mornings. She thought it was strange. I said he probably had some boring meeting. The idea that he could have secrets too did not sit well with me. We sat by the window, and I checked his location tag again. It only said city center. My stomach tightened, not because I thought he was cheating, but because I did not like the idea of him having a life outside my stories. I told Marla he was probably whining to his parents again. She suggested we drop by somewhere downtown and, accidentally, see what he was doing. I laughed and said I had better things to do. What I actually did was message Leo. I wrote that work was draining me, and that I needed a good drink soon. He replied quickly, saying he was on shift that night at Ember and that he could make me something special. He asked how my husband felt about Free Fridays now. I told him Ethan was still acting like a victim. Leo wrote that dramas were exhausting and he didn't want to be in the middle of a marriage war. I said there was no war, just a man who could not handle his wife being interesting. That Sunday, we were invited to lunch at Ethan's parents' house. Linda had called and asked if we could all come, saying she wanted to see Nora. I almost said no. I did not feel like sitting at a table with people who looked at me like I was a problem. But Ethan said Nora would be disappointed if we skipped, and he already told his parents yes. I did not want to be the one who ruined it for Nora, at least not in a way people could point at. Their house was neat and quiet, with photos of Ethan and his brother on the walls. Linda greeted us with a soft smile and a long hug for Nora. She hugged me too, but there was a pause before her arms wrapped around me, like she was thinking about it. Carl shook my hand and asked about my work in that polite but distant way. At the table, conversation started normal. Work, school, weather. Then Linda asked Ethan, gently, if everything was okay between us. She said she had heard some stories from the last family dinner. My jaw tightened. Clearly, someone had talked. I spoke up first. I said things were fine, that people were exaggerating one silly joke. I said Ethan was just stressed with work and that I needed evenings out sometimes. Ethan stayed quiet, cutting his food slowly. Linda looked at him, not me. She asked if he agreed. He said we had different views of what respect looked like. I hated that word again. I told them he had been writing down all my nights out in some spreadsheet, like I was a project he was managing. I said it made me feel like a prisoner. Linda looked surprised. Carl just watched Ethan. Ethan said calmly that he was just trying to keep track of schedules, especially who had Nora and when. He said it helped him see patterns. His tone was dry, almost professional. I laughed and said he sounded like a therapist. I turned to Linda and said I did not want to sit in some boring counseling office where a stranger told me to be small and quiet. Linda said counseling was not about being small. It was about understanding each other. I said if Ethan wanted to be understood, he could start by not acting like a jailer. The word was too strong, but I liked how it sounded. Linda sighed and changed the topic, asking Nora about school. The tension sank under the table but did not leave. Later, Carl asked Ethan to help him in the garage. The door stayed open so I could see them, but I could not hear every word. They stood by the workbench. Carl pointed at something on his phone. Ethan nodded, his face set. At one point, Carl put a hand on his shoulder and spoke in a low voice. Ethan nodded again. I did not like it. It felt like they were planning something. I told myself they were turning him against me. On the drive home, I asked Ethan what that was about. He said his father was giving him advice and telling him to protect himself. I asked, protect himself from what? From his own wife? He said calmly that he did not want to be in a position where all the decisions were made for him. He said he needed things in writing, especially about the house and about Nora. My chest went cold, then hot. I snapped that he was already planning an escape, acting like I was dangerous. He said he was planning clarity, not escape. I accused him of wanting to win some future argument instead of fixing the present. He did not reply. Back at home, the distance between us became obvious in small things. He stopped asking about my day. He started keeping his phone face down. He moved some papers into the locked drawer in the study. I heard the click of the key and felt it like a door closing in my own chest. I responded by leaning harder into my image at work and online. I posted more selfies, more jokes about wife life. At the office, I let co-workers believe we were basically separated. When one of them asked if I was seeing anyone, I did not say yes, but I did not say no. I liked the power in that space between. In the evenings, when Ethan came home later than usual, I would ask where he had been. He said things like errands or personal meetings. I told him he owed me more detail if he expected it from me. He said his time was his own, as long as Nora was cared for. That sounded like something a lawyer would say. It stung. Instead of asking more questions, I started telling people he was acting cold, maybe even cheating. It was easier to say he had changed than to admit that I had opened the door first. One night, I walked past the study and heard the faint hum of the printer. By the time I stepped inside, the tray was empty, but the smell of toner hung in the air. Ethan sat at the desk, laptop closed, hands folded. I asked what he had printed. He said, "Nothing you need to worry about." That sentence played in my head for hours afterward. I told myself if he was going to keep secrets, then I was free to do whatever I wanted. After the night with the printer smell, I stopped pretending I was not angry. If Ethan was going to play secret games, then fine. Two could play. I told myself he started it. That thought sat in my chest like a stone. At work, Marla suggested another after-hours drink with some colleagues from the design team. It was not even Friday yet. I hesitated just long enough to feel like I was being good, then agreed. I said out loud that I deserved it. Marla nodded like she was my lawyer and judge all in one. That afternoon, Ethan sent a message asking if I wanted him to pick up Nora or if I had time. I told him I had to stay late, that my boss needed me for end-of-month reports. It sounded important and busy, not fun and reckless. He replied that he would handle pickup. It annoyed me how quickly he said yes, like he had expected me to choose work over home. At the bar near the office, the music was lower than at Ember. There were bright lights and polished wood. It felt cleaner, more grown up. Leo was not there. This was a different place. Still, his name came up when the drink started to hit. Marla asked if I was going to see him again. I shrugged and said I did not know, but the way I smiled gave it away. One of the guys from design, a tall man with a too loud laugh, asked if I was really married. Marla said yes, but made a face, as if it was just a detail. He asked where my husband was tonight. I said he was at home, probably organizing his little charts. Everyone laughed. It felt good and sharp, like I had won something. When I went to the bathroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Lipstick a bit smudged, eyes bright. I touched my ring. It felt heavy. I slipped it off again, like muscle memory, and dropped it into the pocket of my blazer. My finger looked younger right away. I thought, this is who I am, really. Not that woman hunched over a sink at home. Later, when most co-workers had left, Marla asked if we wanted to move to Ember. Just for one, she said. We both knew that was a lie. I said I should probably go home. She raised her eyebrows and said it was my choice whether I wanted to live or just exist. I hated how much that line worked on me. We messaged Leo on the way. He wrote that he had a short shift, but could hang for a bit after. My stomach fluttered. I told myself we were just friends, that I needed someone who saw me as fun, not as a problem to be fixed. Ember was quieter that night. Leo greeted us with his usual easy smile. He asked how family life was going. I said my husband was doing his usual guilt trip. Leo said he did not envy him, and that drama was not his style. I told him there was no drama, just a man who could not handle his wife being desirable. I heard my own words and knew they were cruel. But they felt good. We stayed later than I planned. Messages from Ethan stacked up, a photo of Nora's drawing, a simple note that she wanted to show me a new song she learned, then just, "Are you on your way?" I ignored them. I told myself he had chosen to be cold. If he wanted warmth, he should act different. I did not go home alone that night. I will not give details, because everybody already thinks they know what happened. They see a small choice, a quick lift of a ring, and fill in the rest. They act like I plotted it for months. I didn't. It just slid into place. That's all I'll say. When I came back to the apartment the next morning, Ethan was in the kitchen making pancakes with Nora. He looked tired, eyes shadowed, but his movements were precise. Nora ran to me and asked if I had fun at work. My stomach twisted. I hugged her and said work had been long. Ethan dried his hands and looked at my face, then at my hand. My ring was back on. I had put it on in the elevator. He asked what time I got in. I said late. He asked if everything was okay. I said yes, that I was just tired. He did not push. That almost made me angry. If he cared, why didn't he push? I told myself his calm meant he did not care. It was easier than thinking he had decided to stop chasing me. Over the next week, the house changed in small ways. Ethan moved some of his clothes into the guest room closet. He said he was snoring and did not want to wake me. I said he was being dramatic. Really, it felt like a small move out. One night, I walked past the guest room and saw the bed half made, his phone on the nightstand, screen dark. The distance between our bedrooms was only a few steps, but it felt like another city. I tried to start fights. If he was angry, then the story would be simple. My husband yelled, my husband scared me, but he would not give me that. When I complained that he was cold, he said he was trying to stay calm for Nora. When I said he was punishing me by sleeping in the guest room, he said he was giving us both space to think. His voice stayed level, and that enraged me. At work, I leaned harder into the storytelling. I told people we were on a break, that we were like roommates now. I said he had basically agreed we could see other people as long as we kept the house running. That was not quite what he had said. He had said he couldn't stop my choices and that he would just respond to them. same thing in my head. One evening, after another long day and a not-so-innocent visit to Ember, I came home to find a sticky note on the fridge. It said, "Bring forms," in Ethan's neat handwriting. Next to it on his phone screen, I glimpsed a calendar reminder. Personal, 3:00 p.m. downtown. I asked what forms. He said it was just bank stuff. I asked what kind of bank stuff. He said it was none of my concern. That word, none, hit me hard. I told him if he was moving money without telling me, that was financial abuse. He raised an eyebrow and asked if lying about where I spent my nights was financial health. I snapped that at least I was honest about wanting a life. He looked at me for a long moment and then turned back to the sink. Later, in the kitchen, we finally had the big talk I thought I wanted. I had had a couple of drinks with Marla and came home ready to throw words like knives. I said he was trying to make me feel crazy. I said he was acting cold on purpose, so that when I finally broke, he could say it was all my fault. I brought up every small thing from the last month and stacked them like evidence. His lists, his meetings, his locked drawer. He listened without interrupting. That made me feel like I was shouting into a well. I said if he hated me so much, he should just leave. I said I was basically free anyway. That I had more fun in one night at the bar than in a month at home. The words burned as they left my mouth, but I did not pull them back. When I finally ran out of breath, he set down the dish towel and looked straight at me. His face was very calm, almost blank. He said he agreed with me on one thing. I wanted free. He said if that was truly what I wanted, he would stop pretending. He said he would handle it properly now. Then he placed a new key on the counter, a different color from our usual ones, and walked out to the hallway with a small overnight bag. I heard the door close behind him, quiet and final, like a period at the end of a long sentence. The next week, Ethan sent a message asking if I could meet him downtown near the big glass building by the courthouse. He wrote that we should talk in person about next steps. I read that line over and over. It sounded calm, almost hopeful. I decided he had finally come to his senses. I told myself he missed me. I told myself he had scared himself with his little lists and meetings and now wanted to work it out. I put on a fitted blouse, dark jeans and the good boots. I curled my hair and put my ring on. In the mirror, I looked like a woman who might say she had made a few mistakes, but was still worth fighting for. The lobby was busy, full of people in suits, security guards, and a few nervous couples holding folders. The air smelled like coffee and printer ink. I saw Ethan near the center, next to Carl and a man in a neat suit holding a leather folder. Linda and Pauline sat on a bench nearby. My mother's face was stiff. Linda's eyes were red but steady. I walked up and said we could talk somewhere more private. Ethan said, in this flat voice, that everything would be clear in a minute. I started to launch into my speech, about stress and feeling unseen, and making bad choices, but wanting to try. I said we both had faults. I said we should not throw away a family over a few bar nights. A woman with a clipboard stepped toward me and asked for my name. I gave it. She checked something, then said she had documents for me. She placed a thick envelope in my hands and said they were divorce papers and temporary orders, and that I had been officially served. I opened it right there. The first page listed dates, nights at Ember, rooftop pictures, Marla's stories, my free tonight posts. It said pattern of infidelity and public humiliation. It said Ethan requested primary use of the apartment, a set custody schedule for Nora, and a freeze on our joint credit. At the bottom, in bold, it said I had a limited number of days to respond. I stood in the middle of the lobby, my ring suddenly too tight, and realized my little joke about being free was now written down as the reason my marriage was ending.